Hello, MCU fans! Today we're going to be talking about why the in-universe Fantastic Four tie-in comic is such a big deal. I'll be talking about how it connects with some of the existing trailer scenes that we've seen already, as well as what the comic tells us about the movie overall. Lots to discuss, so let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Don't forget, we have an April contest running all month long. Be a subscriber, leave a comment. You could win a book or a steelbook. Best of luck. And we have a membership option with lots of cool perks, so you might check it out in case you're interested. All right, so before I get to the comic, I want to talk about one set of scenes from the trailer, particularly the Ted Gilbert show, which is honoring the team. You might remember he says, well, folks, we all know the story. 4 brave astronauts head up into space and come back forever changed. Our city, our planet, owe a debt to these intrepid souls. And then we see the kids booking it down the street to get to the TV in time, as Ted says, and while we can never repay them, we can certainly celebrate them. And it's important to note that he's showing scenes from their first flight into space and also from that tour that Reed and Sue gave of the Baxter Building. All right, so then we see a bunch of people saying thank you, Fantastic Four, thank you, Fantastic Four, and this dude giving a toast to them. Then we come back to Ted, who says, please welcome the Fantastic Four. The crowd goes wild, and the Fantastic Four shows up on this cool platform so that they can be honored. But we also know from the trailer that something happens and they have to book it out of the building, off to go fight somebody. Anyway, the key is this. In the IMAX trailer, you can actually make out what this billboard says, or, well, mostly make it out. But notice, it says celebrating 4 years of the, and then presumably Fantastic Four. Keep that in mind, because that is really important for this tie-in comic. Okay, so first of all, Marvel has done tie-in comics before, right? I mean, recently, X-Men 97, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and the TVA comic, which I'm still not sure whether that's canon, but I'll talk more about that when the final issue of that arrives. But they've done several recent ones, and they've done them all the way back to the beginning of the MCU. Tie-in comics with the Iron Man movie, tie-in comics with Avengers, which talked about Fury's Big Week, and tie-in comics even with the Eternals movie. So this is not a new concept for Marvel. Thus, it was no surprise that Marvel was going to release this comic tie-in of Fantastic Four First Steps. And I love how it's an homage to the original Fantastic Four issue #1. I mean, a few key changes. On the right, Sue is basically doing nothing except turning invisible, but obviously on the left, she's using her bubble to protect herself. And then on the right, Mr. Fantastic is trapped in ropes, which is pretty funny. But anyway, on the left, we see him actually using his stretching powers as a rope. So yeah, some changes, but you get the idea. This is an homage to Fantastic Four #1, which is the issue that started the entire Marvel Comics revolution. This was the first comic in their superhero line back in 1961. And notice they're fighting the Mole Man and his creature. Okay, but what's really significant is, this is not just a regular old tie-in comic. It is literally an in-universe comic. It's very similar to Scott Lang's book, remember? Because the book that we can buy in the real world was actually part of the movie. It is an in-universe book told as though Scott Lang was literally writing it. Well, that's the same way they're approaching this Fantastic Four comic. It is literally a comic that exists in the movie. And it makes total sense then that Marvel would provide an in-universe announcement. So keep in mind, everything we're going to read here is as though it was written by Marvel Comics in the Fantastic Four universe. So they say the Future Foundation authorized a comic book dramatization of the Fantastic Four's first adventure. Superstar creators Matt Fraction and Mark Buckingham have been tasked by the Future Foundation to bring the Fantastic Four's incredible origin to the comic page in Fantastic Four First Steps, a new Marvel comic book coming this July. Okay, so much to talk about in just this short sentence. First of all, Matt Fraction and Mark Buckingham exist in the movie. Like literally, the author and the artist, those are people in the Fantastic Four movie. Now, we already know the Future Foundation exists, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second, but also Marvel Comics exists in the Fantastic Four universe. That's awesome, right? And we also know when this comic is coming out in the movie, in July. So yes, it's going to be in July IRL, but it's also coming out in July in the movie. All right, so Matt Fraction, if you don't know him, he is a fantastic writer. He actually authored the famous Hawkeye run that inspired the Hawkeye Disney Plus show. Future Foundation, as I mentioned, has already been shown from the trailers to exist in the universe. And in fact, if you look real close on the back of Sue's outfit, you can see Future Foundation. So basically, that means the Fantastic Four and their organization have gone to Marvel Comics and said, we want you to tell our story. That is just so cool. Also, it's worth noting that this scene, which is, again, the 4-year celebration, we know it's now happening in July because we're going to see that the comic book in universe is coming out at the same time as this celebration. So cool. All right, let's go on with this announcement. This July, the Future Foundation is proud to partner with Marvel Comics to produce the first ever authorized retelling of the Fantastic Four's early adventures. Titled Fantastic Four First Steps, the single-issue comic will be authored by acclaimed writer and renowned Fantastic Four expert. Isn't that cool? In universe, Matt Fraction is like an expert on the Fantastic Four, and drawn by the award-winning superhero artist Mark Buckingham. The issue will hit stands just in time for the 4th anniversary of the Fantastic Four's public debut to our world, part of a milestone celebration that's shaping up to be the talk of the summer season. So now you can probably see why I was saying the comic comes out at the same time as that Ted Gilbert show honoring the Fantastic Four on their 4th anniversary. All right, so it goes on to say, it's the moment that changed the world, presented in the most brilliant medium there is. Fantastic Four, First Steps #1 is certain to be a must-have item, both for those who have looked up to this super team since they made themselves known, and those who might be unaware of the history behind Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Human Torch, and the Thing's incredible rise to global stardom. No surprise, right? But now we know for certain, across the globe, they are honored and respected. Very cool. All right, so 4 years ago, the world was transformed as an amazing cosmic-powered quartet revealed themselves and their astonishing abilities to the public. Since that time, they've become world famous as the Fantastic Four. Now, to celebrate that anniversary, Marvel Comics recounts their very first exploit that saved our city from near destruction. Okay, so that's really important. They're making it clear that this battle is the very first battle where we saw the Fantastic Four. Then I love this quote, "What an honor to be asked to help celebrate the 4th anniversary of the Fantastic Four," Fraction shared. It was a thrill to bring their first legendary adventure to the world of comic books for the first time. It's a story we all know by heart, but I think Magic Mark Buckingham and I have found a way to tell it as you have never heard or seen before. And who knows, this could be the start of something big. All right, so that's just a fun little wink and a nod, right? It is basically Matt Fraction working for Marvel Comics saying this comic could be the start of something big. And of course, again, the comic was the beginning of the Marvel revolution of superheroes. Love that. Then they conclude by saying, take a look at the team in action on artist Phil Noto's cover and be sure to ask the fine folks at your local comic shop to save you a copy of Fantastic Four First Steps #1. So again, it's important to note this is the first battle the Fantastic Four had in their universe, and it was versus the Mole Man and his creature. So I am now 100% confident that this medallion that they're standing on is honoring that first conflict. So if we look at it, it's kind of hard to read, so you have to flip it upside down. So notice it says, on this day, saved the city, honors the four, etc. So this is definitely honoring them for a big battle they had. And notice those are buildings in the background, and I think that's the Thing and probably the Human Torch attacking something, which looks kind of like a blob to me, but I'm betting that's the creature that we saw coming out of Subterranea, the Mole Man's land, to attack. So I'm betting this medallion is where this battle took place, because they probably came up from the ground right here, and they stopped the battle and won the day. So that is so, so cool. All right, so I have done a trailer breakdown where I tried to put the scenes in order. You can go check that out if you want more. And I will be doing another trailer breakdown, putting the scenes in order, because I think we learned so much from this book that it is well worth going through that exercise. But I want to point out, we can now say that their first flight into space, where they got their powers, that's year 1. And now we know that July of year 4 is when they're being honored at the Ted Gilbert show. And then for what it's worth, we do learn from the trailers, thanks to the multitude of pumpkins and kids trick-or-treating, that the surfer coming to warn them is in October of year, we don't know, maybe year 5? Hard to say at this point. But I just love how slowly the story is coming together. They're not revealing too much. There's many, many mysteries about the movie that are still being kept hidden from us, but I do like that we're starting to see this overall flow of the movie. So, what do you think about this novel approach for the comic? Do you like the idea of this being literally in the universe? Are you going to get the comic? You know I'm going to cover it, that's for sure. But I'm interested if you're going to buy it, because this is just such a unique approach. I love it. So leave your thoughts and comments. You know I love to read and respond to all of them. Also, don't forget that contest. Be a subscriber, leave a comment. You can win a book or a steelbook. And there's that membership option in case you're interested in that. And then I always love to mention the Discord. Here we are talking about the tie-in comic. Where else but the official tie-in comic section on the Discord. And thank you, Hunter, for the great work you do inside this chat. And also, I want to mention the Doomsday 1-year countdown. On every day listed here at 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll be doing a watch party to get ready for the May 1st, 2026 release of Avengers Doomsday. So we have 2,100 members across the globe, conversations 24/7, and I'll leave a pinned comment so you can join. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, the ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.